Hi guys, I'm here to read you another original poem that I wrote years ago for my friend Katrina that I used to work with. She was, like me, like just a giant like pervert and shit, and just a all-out sicko. And she used to call me ma'am all the time, and I used to be like, "Don't call me ma'am," and she'd be like, "Okay, ma'am, whatever you say, ma'am." And her initials actually were Pam, like P-A-M. So she ended up like putting her 2 weeks in, like eventually, she was getting ready to leave. And I was like, oh my God, like I should write her a poem before she leaves and make it just like fucking epic. So years ago, somebody, the girl that I wrote Slutty Buddy about, Linnea, was showing everybody this fucking video about this woman and this horse. And it was super nasty. And I was like, that's totally fucking Katrina. I was like, I'm fucking putting that in her poem. So this is my poem. This is November 29th, 2011. This is I'm So Hungry I Could Eat a... I've got a secret that I can't hold inside anymore. Katrina, aka Patriflin, is a fucking whore. And not just for the obvious reasons that everyone knows about, but for a little known fact, no doubt. Nearly everyone saw that video of that fucking horse impaling that woman with such brutal force. No one saw her face, but I know who she is. She's the receptacle of horse jizz. Yes, it's true. It was Katrina Morocco. That horse put his meat inside of her taco. He skipped on the lettuce and tomatoes, but filled her full of sour cream. He also filled her full of 18 inches, but that dirty bitch didn't even scream. The horse's name was Oreo, because he was black and white. Since he was mixed, she hoped he had a big dick, but that ain't even right. Oreo couldn't believe Patriflin wasn't even Sorio, and that's when he started calling her Horeo. You couldn't tell from the video if he was nailing her in the front or in the back. His feces-ridden hooves were fondling her rack. Oreo pounded her flesh with every single thrust. How many more times could his nut bust? Finally, Oreo couldn't take it. He needed a break. How many more inches could this bitch take? What the video didn't show was a Clydesdale on the other side of the wall. This hulking beast was taking advantage of her face in the other stall. Clyde was ramming his massive dick down her throat. The amount of jizz in her stomach caused it to blow. The baby batter coated her tongue and most of her face. A dry chunk of it clung to her bottom brace. Clyde's horsey sauce spewed onto her dry, cracked lips. Oreo was spent and milked with every buck of her hips. Patriflin got turned out by 2 horses and still wanted more. It's gonna take a moose or an elephant to satisfy this cock-hungry whore. In every orifice she received a throbbing bone. One in the ass, one in her beaver, and one she licked like an ice cream cone. What flavor, you ask? Why, Oreo cookies and cream. So milky and gooey, just like her wet dream. Clyde wanted her to trim his mane and tail, since she cuts hair for a living. You'd never know it by all the blowjobs she'd been giving. When Oreo was finished, she pulled his dick out of her snatch. He was gonna put it in her ass, but it smelled like horse shit, so instead he struck a match. Oreo was no ordinary horse. He had feelings, too. He ground up his hooves, smeared it on her ass, and called it Elmer's glue. This was supposed to keep her asshole from coming apart, or from blowing it to smithereens if she let out a fart. He also spared her a strand of his horsehair. After the way he reamed her flesh, he deemed it only fair. He watched her thread the needle as she curled up in the position of fetal. He decided he couldn't stand it, and he certainly could not watch, as this sloppy hot mess sewed up her own crotch. He threw a fit just like a bitch before her hand could sew a stitch. The vet was called to come right away, not his first encounter with their horseplay. He had something to alleviate the problem and fix it right quick. In no time at all, Katrina would be a parking lot for dicks. The vet pulled out a syringe and gave her one good shot. Clyde and Oreo gave her some of those, but theirs was cock snot. In about an hour, she was tight as hell from a shot of Botox, all geared up and readying her ass for 2 horsecocks. Oreo and Clyde greased that bitch up with Pam and assumed their position while snorting wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The end. Written by Anaconda.